It's your girl Angie, and I got my girl Frankie here with us. Hey, and you know, of course, we are to be real.
Always keeping it real.
Always keeping it real, you know.
Yes.
Even on today. We're going to keep it real.
This day.
On this day. But we are just so excited. Thank you so much for coming in. Mm-hmm. It's been a little minute, but that's okay.
It's okay. Life and
dream is still yet alive.
Yes.
So here we are. We can keep our life. But I am so excited today, Frankie. You know why?
What is that?
Because we get to talk about boundaries.
Yes, Lord. Let's talk about these boundaries, child. Because let's talk about it.
Let's talk about boundaries. Okay, so what I wanted to ask is setting boundaries. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about establishing those boundaries, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's a few things. For me, it means being honest. Because in order to set boundaries, you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And the people you're setting boundaries with. A lot of times, I feel like we're afraid to set those boundaries because we're scared. You know, we're going to hurt other people's feelings. We don't know how they're going to take it. But truly and actually, I felt like when people are your tribe and they respect you and they understand you, they should respect your boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's
respect.
Yeah, it's respect, you know.
And like you said, being honest, but also consistency.
Yes.
I think that when you find out what you're comfortable with,
exactly,
and realizing what you are uncomfortable with, and then taking that and being consistent with it.
Right.
Because I feel like once you're consistent, you know your consistency is what's going to allow people to understand what those boundaries are. You know,
correct.
And just voicing your opinion on like, hey, this is what I like, or I don't feel comfortable expressing yourself.
Yeah.
You know, when you get into a situation where you feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, communication. I feel like is really big. Is a really big key with boundaries because you know it can be something that is misunderstood if it's not, you know, given properly or telling the person properly what your boundaries are. You know, it can be taken a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a little sensitive topic because, you know, sometimes, you know, it's easy to set those boundaries like with coworkers or, you know, people you don't really know. But let's talk about the people you do know. Let's talk about family members.
Yeah.
Let's talk about friends.
I love it.
I mean, it goes deep.
Yeah.
You just have to be honest with those people, especially when it comes to family. I feel like, you know, it can get a little rough when it comes to setting boundaries with family. Yeah. You know, especially when emotions are involved.
And I love how you just went into that because my next question for you was, what are some examples of boundaries? And you mentioned work related, right? We talk about family, social, which will fall into social, verbal boundaries, and there's also physical boundaries. When you talk about like physical, for example, you may be that type of person where you don't like people to touch you. Yeah. Well, especially people you don't know to touch you. Yeah. I know people who don't like people
touching them, period,
you know? Yeah. And that's just respect. And them saying, right, especially like you said with friendships or people that you know, I feel like it should be easier to express yourself and that person not be offended when I say, hey, I don't like really to be touched, you know. Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. That's just not what she likes, you know what I mean? So
and you know, there's different types of boundaries. You know, we talk about work, you know, letting people know, hey, this is my boundary, this is my workload, I can't take no more. You know, certain conversations about I don't want to talk about that. You know, and then with friends, you know, sometimes people might want to do something. It's okay just to say, no, I'm not feeling like it. Don't always like you have to come up with an excuse.
Right. You don't have to always.
The answer is no.
Yeah. You know, no. That is like, you know, for some reason, for it to be such a short word,
it's so why behind it.
But it's so much. It's for a lot of people, it's hard. Like,
it's a hard.
There's people. My experience, I used to not know how to say no. Yeah. And then you beat yourself up, like, man, I just really don't want to go.
I have to have.
Yeah, like,
you don't want to lie. That's why I said honesty is so big in boundaries. Yeah. And I feel like the biggest ones when it comes to family. You know,
even family.
You know,
talk about it.
It's just talk about it. Asking, you know, it could be a variety of things. When you get married, when you settle down, when you have that boundaries, like, you know, everybody wants different things. Everybody doesn't want the same thing. And I think people, you have to set those boundaries. And people actually, even if you don't set them, need to know not to cross boundaries. It's just common sense of things not to ask. You know, and especially if somebody's expressed it and you keep doing it, or family functions, you know, people feel like you always have to come to a family function or you always have to be here. You might want to do something different, like holidays. Perfect example, you know, Christmas, Thanksgiving, you know, family, we do something. I might want to go on a cruise. I might not want to do the traditional thing. So I feel like, you know, boundaries is really, it comes with a lot of honesty and confidence, you know, to set that.
Well, drawing the line.
Drawing that line in the sand. Like,
and knowing what you want.
Exactly.
And I think that...
And being adamant about what you want. Being stern. And not being like, but just being like, hey, confident, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. Just being honest.
And you know, with everything that goes on with our lives, I think we deal with stress. And I think a lot of the stress ties into us not knowing our limits. And a lot of times appeasing other people, and forgetting about ourselves.
Like 80% of that comes from appeasing other people. You know, because you know,
right. But is it healthy? Is it healthy for yourself? Is it healthy for the relationship that you have with that other person or those people around you when you're not, like you said, going back, being honest with yourself? And you know, being honest with yourself is just taking the time to reflect what it is that like I said, makes you feel comfortable.
Makes you happy, comfortable.
Makes you happy. And it's okay to sit here and say, you know, I don't know if I want to go out, you know, and do that this weekend. It's just not my thing. Exactly. You know, instead of forcing yourself to do something that you don't. And then you go and you're being uncomfortable.
Looking awkward.
And that's just awkward. And then you're stressed. And you're not happy because that's not something you want to do.
Hardest boundary people have to set is with their family. You know, because, you know, we especially in our community, you know, we love our family. You know, we do anything, and I feel like sometimes we feel like when we don't do something or something that we feel like we should be doing to appease, we feel like we're letting people down. And I feel like that's where it comes in, and it's like one of these things like, oh, you're acting funny. You know, we're always caring what other people think or how we're being perceived. You know, or it's like...
Because it's like, I don't know, for some reason when it comes family, so like, it's like you almost feel like you can't say no.
Exactly. You know, I'm acting funny, or you feel bad, you feel guilty. So that's why I feel like the hardest part of setting boundaries comes from family. You know, and then sometimes family, depending on what it is, they'll make you feel guilty. It's like,
but you know what? And I feel like they'll start off being like that, but that goes back to what I was saying, consistency. So if you're consistent with what you set and the limits that you presented with yourself, and you voice that, they're going to eventually turn around and be like, you know what? I get it. That's just not something, you know.
Because when you say it so many times, in so many nice ways, they be like, oh, I know, no, she not, you know. And it's like, thank you for that respect. Thank you for knowing me enough to know that that's my boundary. Thank you for knowing enough to know that's not what I want to do. Thank you enough to know that that's not me. You know, it's just... It's just one of those things, like, you have to know your people, you know, and I feel like that's the easiest thing. You should set boundaries towards your tribe, you know, your friends, family. You know, work is always going to be different.
Well, work, and speaking of work, because I just thought about something, and a prime example of not setting those limits and is, you know, when you're at work. You're so used to just saying yes, I'll do that, I'll do that, even if it's not your job duty or your job title. And what happens?
And it causes stress.
It causes stress.
You're overworked. You're overwhelmed. You didn't set that boundary.
And then they take advantage of you. And then they end up taking advantage of you because you're turning into that yes person, and because you're not saying no, because you're afraid of, oh, if I don't say no, I might not get this opportunity, or I might not get this chance, or they might not like me, or whatever it is. But who gets the bad end of the stick at the end? Is it them or is it you?
You just don't want to wear yourself out. And like I said, that just goes back to saying, hey, I got too much on my plate right now, and setting that boundary, letting them know, like, hey, this is too much for me.
Right, exactly.
You have to be stern about it. And like I said, that's one, you know, example in the workforce, but there's so many.
I mean, there is many, and I think that we go out our life and go about our life.
People pleasing, that's what it is.
People pleasing, and just not spending time with ourselves. And I think that goes into...
I think not being truthful with ourselves, not being honest with ourselves.
Or rediscovering ourselves. I think that sometimes we lose ourselves along the way. And life gets ahead of, gets the best of us sometimes. And just not taking that time.
Yeah, and I will say I had last year a life-changing experience that happened to me, and it has been much easier for me to set those boundaries because I'm finding my peace, I'm finding myself, my regrowth. So, and sometimes, sad to say, it takes those tremendous changes, devastating loss to help you kind of reevaluate and see how to set those boundaries, because you realize that, life is precious and your time is, and mentally, your mental health needs to be protected because it can get to a place where it can be mental.
Yeah.
People think it's not anything big and, it's like, oh, they're just talking about boundaries. No, it can get mental. It can mentally give you anxiety, give you stress, give you depression.
But you're having to pivot. So like you said, you had something, last year, just it forces you to whatever things that you have set, boundaries you have set prior to, you had to pivot. Yeah. Now you have new set of boundaries that you have because of life events that caused the turn in.
And sometimes you lose people along the way, but I saw this quote and it says, if there's a shift and things are shifting and people are shifting, let the shift happen.
Ooh, yes.
Let the shift happen, because everything happens for a reason. And if you are shifting and it's in a positive way, if those people can't shift with you, they got to keep it moving. You got to keep going, because you can't be staggered. You just keep
I like you said that, because if they get upset because you are doing that, that's
setting the tone, setting the boundaries.
Right. They're only upset because you didn't have that to begin with. Exactly. And they had that opportunity to either take advantage or manipulate you. But the minute you do set that and they get upset, it's all because they had free range, I guess you can say that.
And you're right, free range. And it's like, well, what's that person in my corner, or what was their intentions? But I feel like those people that love you and care about you, they understand. They understand.
The true ones they'll understand. Some things that you are doing.
I'm not afraid to say no, and I don't have to have a reason why I say no. I make sure I take time for myself. If there's not something I feel like doing that day, I just don't do it. I just, if there's something I feel like that'll make me happy, I do it. I had to stop myself. I was a people pleaser, and I felt like, now that I have revisited setting those boundaries, journaling and just, prayer, finding my own journey, just taking more time for myself for healing. And I feel like I have a good support system. So I feel like, when I set those boundaries, my tribe, they understand. Yeah. So it hasn't been a hard journey for me, but, some people don't have it that easy. Some people, it is hard to set, boundaries, to tell people no, to tell people this is not what I want, to take time for themselves, to be people pleaser. And it can be draining. It can be mentally exhausting. So,
I agree. And
so what are some things that you're doing to, you wear many hats, so
like you said, learning the art of no and being okay with that, and being that I don't always have to be in the midst of the crowd. Sometimes it's okay. You go ahead. I'm just going to hang back. Or
hang back tight.
Hang back tight. Corner. Or just standing for something. Having some sort of belief or value or what I value, what I believe in, and just holding on to it. I think that just it doesn't help when you're trying to, like, I feel like when you're trying to please people, you're on like a hamster wheel, and it's just a constant.
It's a constant spin,
and you just, it's not healthy, like you said, mentally, emotionally.
It's exhausting.
And any way that I can eliminate stress.
It's the pressure. You feel like you're pressured.
It's a cutoff for me. And it's cutoff. And like I said, it's if I say no, I don't want to do this. It's not to say, especially, I don't want to be a friend, or I don't want to hang out with you.
Yeah, but
it's just
gotta be comfortable saying sometimes.
Exactly.
It's okay to say no.
It's okay. But that's just what I'm doing. But I'm learning.
Yeah.
Especially because while we're talking about it, just being more intentional with myself and being more self-aware.
Yeah.
about Angela.
Yeah.
And what do I like? You know, what do I don't like?
Yeah.
So
I totally agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Yeah. So, what are some things that y'all are doing to set those boundaries? You know, everybody has different situations. Everybody has their different paths they're going on. So we would love to hear some feedback. You know, drop them in the comments, write us, let us know.
Yeah.
You know.
How is it working out for you? So, as we go on this growth, this journey of rediscovering ourselves and taking care of ourselves
through this life.
But thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
So appreciate it.
Yes.
Can't wait till next time.
Bye.